Have you ever caught yourself spiraling into negative thoughts, procrastinating when you know you shouldn't, or reacting emotionally in ways that later felt irrational? Most people experience these moments, yet few ever pause to consider what's really happening. What if I told you that much of your behavior isn't consciously chosen, but is the result of deeply ingrained patterns within your brain? What if your brain is controlling you more than you're controlling it? The truth is, your brain is not automatically on your side. In fact, it's built for survival, not happiness. Evolution has wired your mind to detect threats, remember pain, and avoid risk. And while those instincts were critical thousands of years ago, today they often work against you. That's why understanding how your brain operates and learning how to control it is one of the most essential skills you can develop. Let's start by talking about the dual nature of the brain. There's what scientists call the thinking brain, your prefrontal cortex, which handles logic, planning, self-control, and decision-making. Then there's the emotional brain, primarily your limbic system, which is fast, instinctive, and rooted in emotion and habit. The problem: your emotional brain reacts faster than your thinking brain can respond. This means that when you feel anger, fear, or stress, your emotional brain hijacks the wheel before logic has a chance to speak. You've probably experienced this hijack before. Maybe you shouted at someone you love and immediately regretted it. Or maybe you stayed up late binge-watching videos when you had important work the next day. In those moments, it wasn't you making the decision. It was your brain's autopilot, driven by emotions and impulses. Over time, if left unchecked, these patterns deepen. They form what's called neural pathways, essentially well-worn roads in your mind that determine how you think, feel, and act. But here's the catch: those pathways are not permanent. Your brain has a feature called neuroplasticity. It means you can change your brain. You can literally rewire your thoughts, reshape your emotional responses, and build stronger mental habits. However, to do that, you need awareness and discipline. You have to become the observer of your thoughts, not just the victim of them. So how do you begin? It starts with mindfulness. Mindfulness isn't just meditation. It's about becoming aware of your inner world. Imagine being able to catch yourself mid-thought and ask, "Is this helpful?" Instead of blindly reacting, you step back, observe, and choose. You reclaim the steering wheel from your emotional brain. This small shift, this power of choice, is where mental control begins. But mindfulness alone isn't enough. You also need to identify your triggers, those situations, people, or internal narratives that spark negative reactions. Once you become conscious of them, you begin to understand how your brain has been conditioned. Maybe you were raised in a home where mistakes led to punishment, so now every failure feels like a crisis. Or maybe your past experiences have taught your brain to expect rejection or judgment. These learned responses live deep within your subconscious, subtly guiding your behavior every day. The next step is to challenge those patterns, and that requires something most people avoid: discomfort. You have to sit with your emotions instead of escaping them. That's hard, because your brain is addicted to comfort. It wants to scroll, binge, sleep, and avoid anything that feels like effort. But when you avoid discomfort, you surrender control. You let your impulses drive the car, and your higher self gets locked in the trunk. Think about the moments in your life where you felt most proud, where you grew, achieved, or overcame. They all had one thing in common: discomfort. That's the path to reclaiming your mind. Not through ease, but through effort. Not through escape, but through facing the truth of who you are and how your brain operates. So ask yourself this: who's in control right now? Is it you, the conscious, intentional version of yourself? Or is it your brain running outdated software written by fear, habit, and survival? If you want to change your life, you have to change your mind. And if you want to change your mind, you have to take control before it's too late. Because here's the scary part: if you don't train your brain, someone else will. Social media, advertising, news, even the people around you, they all influence your thoughts in ways you don't even notice. Your attention is their currency. The more distracted you are, the more easily controlled you become. That's not just a metaphor. It's neuroscience. When your brain is constantly reacting, swiping, checking, and scrolling, it loses the ability to focus, to reflect, and to think deeply. And a mind that can't think deeply is a mind that's easily manipulated. So this isn't just about productivity or success. It's about freedom, mental freedom, emotional freedom, the ability to wake up and choose your thoughts rather than be ruled by them, the ability to build habits that serve you instead of being stuck in loops that drain you. It's about becoming the master of your mind before your mind becomes your master. Now that you understand the internal mechanics of your brain, the emotional hijacks, the thinking mind, the neural pathways, it's time to talk about what's shaping those systems from the outside. Because the truth is, even if you begin to wake up to your own thought patterns, you're still swimming in an ocean of influence. And unless you learn how to recognize and resist those forces, you'll find yourself drifting right back into the same cycles. Think of your brain like a sponge. It absorbs whatever it's surrounded by. Your conversations, your social media feed, the content you consume, the people you spend time with. Every single one of these inputs is programming your brain. Not just metaphorically, literally. Repeated exposure to negativity, distraction, or toxic thinking rewires your mind. The more you scroll through chaos, the more chaotic your thoughts become. The more you expose yourself to anger or outrage, the more your brain will default to those emotions. This is how powerful your environment is. But it's subtle. You don't notice the change until it's already taken hold. One day you wake up and feel unmotivated, uninspired, anxious, and you can't quite figure out why. It's because your external world has been shaping your internal state without your permission. So the question becomes, are you intentionally designing your environment, or are you passively allowing it to design you? Let's go deeper. The algorithms that feed you information online are not designed to empower you. They are designed to hijack your attention, and they're frighteningly effective. Every video you watch, every post you like, tells the algorithm who you are, what you fear, what you desire, what you crave. And it feeds you more of the same, keeping you in a feedback loop that deepens your existing beliefs, emotions, and behaviors. If you're anxious, you'll be fed more anxiety. If you're angry, you'll see more content that justifies your anger. Your mind becomes a reflection of what you feed it, and the longer this goes on, the harder it becomes to break the loop. That's why mental control isn't just about what you do internally. It's about guarding the gates of your mind. It's about becoming fiercely intentional with what you allow in. You have to curate your environment like your life depends on it, because it does. You have to ask yourself every day, Is this helping me grow, or is this shrinking me? If it's not helping, you must cut it out. Because your brain is constantly learning, adapting, and becoming whatever it is exposed to. And it's not just digital content. The people you surround yourself with also shape your mind. If you spend time around complainers, you'll start to complain. If you're surrounded by dreamers, builders, and learners, you'll start to stretch and grow. This isn't just motivational fluff, it's neuroscience. Your brain has something called mirror neurons. These neurons fire when you see someone else perform an action or express an emotion. That's why laughter is contagious. So is fear. So is laziness. You become what you see. You reflect what you absorb. This is why controlling your brain requires ruthless honesty. You have to audit your life. What's in your feed? Who's in your ear? What are you listening to, watching, repeating? Because repetition is how the brain learns. It doesn't care if what you repeat is true or false, helpful or harmful. It only knows repeat equals remember. So if you constantly repeat stories of failure, doubt, fear, and powerlessness, those become your truth. But the opposite is also true. If you feed your brain with thoughts of growth, strength, possibility, and discipline, those become your new reality. It's not magic, it's method. Repetition reshapes reality. Let's bring this down to a practical level. One of the most powerful things you can do to control your brain is to build what I call a mental fortress. Think of it as a system of daily disciplines and habits that protect your attention and sharpen your focus. The first pillar of this fortress is your morning. How you start your day matters more than most people realize. When you wake up and reach for your phone, you're handing over your brain's operating system to outside forces. You start your day in reaction mode. Instead, imagine waking up with intention. You take a few minutes to breathe, reflect, write down your goals, and mentally prime your brain for what matters most. That small window of time sets the tone for your entire day. The second pillar is input control. Create a digital environment that feeds your mind, not poisons it. Unfollow accounts that spark comparison or outrage. Subscribe to channels that educate, elevate, and inspire. Use apps that limit screen time and block distractions. Make it easier to do the right thing and harder to do the wrong thing. That's the secret most people miss. Your willpower isn't infinite. But if you design your environment with intention, you won't need as much willpower because your defaults are already working in your favor. And then there's the third pillar, stillness. In a world that's constantly yelling for your attention, silence becomes a superpower. Carve out time every day to just be. No noise, no screens, just you and your thoughts. This is where awareness lives. This is where you can observe the patterns in your mind and begin to question them. It's where you begin to remember that you are not your thoughts. You are the one observing them. And that shift changes everything. Stillness leads to clarity. Clarity leads to control. And control leads to freedom. But let's be honest, none of this is easy. Your brain will fight back. It will resist change. It will whisper lies like, "This doesn't matter," or "I'll start tomorrow." That's not your true self talking. That's the old wiring, the part of your brain that fears the unknown, that clings to comfort. And here's the thing, comfort is the enemy of growth. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you reinforce the wiring that keeps you stuck. So what do? You choose anyway. You act in spite of resistance. You build discipline by doing the thing even when you don't feel like it. And every time you do, you lay down a new neural pathway. One that says, I am in control. One that says, I don't need to feel ready to take action. One that says, this is who I am now. Because identity is not something you find. It's something you build. One thought, one action, one habit at a time. By now, you understand the critical role your environment plays in shaping your brain. You also understand how your habits, your inputs, and your responses create mental loops that either empower or enslave you. But all of that change begins with something deeper, your identity. Because no matter what you do, if you don't believe you're the kind of person who can take control of your mind, you'll eventually sabotage your own progress. Identity is the foundation. It's the story you tell yourself about who you are. And the brain listens to that story more than anything else. Here's the truth. Most people try to change their behavior without changing their identity. They set goals like, I want to be more focused, or I want to stop procrastinating. And maybe they succeed for a few days, maybe a few weeks. But eventually, their old identity, the subconscious story, pulls them back. Because your brain wants coherence. It wants your actions to match your beliefs. And if deep down you believe you're lazy or weak or undisciplined, no amount of action will stick. You'll always return to the identity you believe in. So how do you change that identity? Not by waiting to feel different, not by hoping. You change your identity by changing your actions. Not big actions, small, repeated ones. You prove to your brain over and over again that you are becoming someone new. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, every time you override an impulse, every time you keep a promise to yourself, you're casting a vote for a new identity. And over time, your brain rewires to match that new story. This is where habit formation comes in. Habits are the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. But not all habits are created equal. Most people focus on what they want to do. Wake up early, meditate, journal, eat better. But few people ask why they want those habits in the first place. Your habits must be tied to your future identity. You're not just someone who meditates. You're someone who values clarity and inner strength. You're not just eating clean. You're becoming someone who honors and fuels their body. When you attach habits to identity, they become sustainable. Because now, they're not chores. They're expressions of who you are. But to make those habits stick, you have to design for them. You have to create an environment, a structure, and a system that supports them. For example, if you want to become someone who wakes up early, don't just set an alarm. Build a ritual. Lay out your clothes the night before. Create a playlist that energizes you. Have a reason to wake up, a purpose you connect to emotionally. And most importantly, remove friction. Make it easier to do the right thing. The brain doesn't just respond to motivation, it responds to momentum. And then, there's consistency. This is where most people fail, not because they're incapable, but because they expect perfection. They believe that missing a day is failure, and so they give up. But real mental control doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from being persistent, from showing up, even when it's hard, from understanding that every action is a vote, and that a few missed votes don't erase the progress you've made. Your brain is like a garden. Every thought, every habit, every repeated behavior is a seed. You can't control which seeds grow instantly, but if you keep planting the right ones and keep pulling out the weeds, over time, your garden changes. Your inner world becomes healthier. Your thoughts become clearer. Your actions become automatic, because they now match the identity you've built. And yet, even with all of this knowledge, there's still one enemy that can sabotage your progress. Your inner critic. That voice inside your head that says you're not good enough. That tells you you'll fail. That reminds you of every mistake, every setback, every time you fell short. That voice is not truth. It's not wisdom. It's old programming. It's the echo of past experiences, past conditioning, past fear. And if you listen to it, if you let it define you, it will rob you of the life you could be living. But here's the powerful part. You don't have to silence the voice. You just have to stop believing it. You have to become the observer. Notice the voice, hear it, acknowledge it, and then choose to act anyway. Because courage isn't the absence of doubt. It's action in spite of it. Your brain will always present resistance before growth. It will always try to pull you back to what's familiar. But you are not your brain. You are not your fear. You are not your past. You are the awareness behind it all. And the moment you realize that, you take back your power. This is the shift from being a passenger to becoming the driver, from reacting to life to designing it. And that design starts with one simple but profound realization. Your future is not written. It is created in this moment by your thoughts, your focus, your actions. You can choose to remain in the cycle of distraction, self-doubt, and survival. Or you can choose to step into intention, discipline, and mastery. It won't happen overnight. You will slip. You will struggle. But every time you get back up, you build strength. Every time you keep going, you train your brain to obey you, not the other way around. And over time, those small wins stack up into something powerful. A mind you can trust. A mind that works for you, not against you. A mind that doesn't just survive, but thrives. You've come a long way, from understanding how your brain functions, to recognizing the influence of your environment, to learning how to rewire identity and build habits rooted in discipline and awareness. But here's the truth no one likes to talk about. The real test isn't what you do when everything is going well. It's what you do when life breaks down, when things don't go your way, when stress builds, when setbacks hit you out of nowhere. That's when your brain will fight hardest to take back control. That's when the old patterns will rise again. And that's why mastering your mind is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong practice. This is where most people give up. They start strong, feel empowered, maybe even transform parts of their routine. But then something happens. A breakup, a failure, a disappointment, or simply a wave of laziness, and they retreat. Not because they're weak, but because they don't yet understand this one truth. Setbacks are part of the system. Your brain doesn't become bulletproof overnight. It becomes resilient through repetition, through pressure, through adversity. And every challenge is an opportunity to strengthen your mental framework, or let it crumble. Think of it like building a muscle. You don't grow in the comfort. You grow under tension. Mental strength works the same way. You grow it every time you face discomfort and choose to lean in instead of retreat. Every time you feel like quitting and keep going anyway. That choice rewires your mind. It sends a signal to your brain. This is who I am now. I do not quit. But mental mastery isn't just about grit. It's also about grace. Because sometimes The most powerful thing you can do is pause, reflect, recalibrate. You're not a robot. You will stumble. You will have days when your brain feels foggy, days when you slip back into old patterns. That's not failure, it's feedback. Your job isn't to be perfect. Your job is to become self-aware enough to notice the slip and strong enough to get back on track without shame. This is where the long game begins. Not in intensity, but in consistency. The greatest minds of history weren't born with control. They built it. Through daily rituals, reflection, and intentional focus. They understood that what you do occasionally doesn't define you. What you do consistently does. And the only way to be consistent is to fall in love with the process, not just the outcome. Outcomes are great. Achievements are fulfilling. But they are fleeting. The process, the discipline of showing up, of training your brain, of mastering your reactions, that is what builds a life of true freedom. And freedom is the real goal, isn't it? Not the kind that's given to you, the kind you create, the kind that exists within, no matter what's happening outside. This kind of control doesn't look flashy. It's quiet. It's invisible to most. It's waking up and doing the right thing when no one's watching. It's choosing to think before you speak. It's turning off the noise and sitting with yourself, even when it's uncomfortable. It's noticing the fear and walking through it anyway. And over time, those invisible wins stack up. They shape your character. They build your confidence. They give you something no one else can give or take away. Self-trust. When you trust your mind, you stop being afraid of your thoughts. You stop being ruled by impulses. You stop outsourcing your decisions to emotion, to the crowd, to whatever feels easy in the moment. You become someone who leads themselves. Someone who others look to not because you're perfect, but because you're solid, grounded, clear. That's what the world needs more of, and that's what you're capable of becoming. But remember this, time is not on your side. Every day that passes without mental discipline is another day your brain grows more automatic, more conditioned, more reactive. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to break free. That's why the title of this video is not just a suggestion. It's a warning. Control your brain before it controls you. Because if you don't control your focus, the world will distract you. If you don't control your emotions will control you. If you don't control your habits will define you. This is not about fear. It's about urgency. You get one life, one brain, one chance to decide who you become. And that chance is today. So take it. Start now. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now begin by observing your thoughts without judgment. Then take small actions that reflect the kind of person you want to become. Build rituals. Design your environment. Guard your attention. Challenge your identity. And when you fall, get back up. Always. Because you are not here to be average. You are not here to be a prisoner of your own mind. You are here to lead, to grow, to become someone who doesn't just survive, but thrives.